my guy, Coach Jermaine Johnson. He'll be telling us his story about how he got into coaching and where the game of basketball has taken him. Coach JJ, here on Hoop Chronicles podcast, we like to start the first question off with who introduced you to the game of basketball?
Man, that's a great question. First, I want to thank you, man, for inviting me on the podcast. I see you've had plenty of my former players, man, to be a part of your podcast, man, and I'm impressed by the things that you're doing. So that's a great question. Well, who got me started in coaching or playing?
Or just we could just start with the game of basketball. Who got you into the game of basketball?
Man, my mom first introduced me. She was working at Ed Rice Community Center. It was her second job. And I was up there when she got out from her post office job. She'll go up there and work from 5 to 10 at night. And, man, just being around the gym, man, at 7 years old, Ed Rice Community Center. Then, just throwing the ball, shooting the ball. She said, well, it's this team called the Frazier Rebels. They're having tryouts at Frazier High School. And so, man, that kind of, kick-started my adventure into the game of basketball.
Was there anything that you were good at early on versus the other kids since you're spending a lot of time in the gym?
Man, I was fast, so I was a really good ball handler. Dribbling the basketball, I was naturally gifted with my quickness, and I just stayed dribbling the basketball. I always would dribble the basketball, even if I'm watching pickup games when the guys were playing 4-on-4 half court. I stayed on the sideline just dribbling the basketball. So yeah.
So my next question, Coach, I want to ask you is, what middle school did you go to?
Back then, when I was in school, it was junior highs. It was 7 through 9.
Okay.
So you had K through 6, and then 7 through 9, then 10 through 12. But I went to Snowden Junior High from 7th through 9th grade, man. And Snowden was a powerhouse athletic, school, but also it was a really good academic school. So.
Okay. When you're at Snowden, are you knowing, like, I'm going to be on the basketball team, or are you just walking in blind?
Man, their tradition was so, great at the time, man. My sister went there first, and so I was so familiar with their legacy and their tradition. They had guys like Randy Carter. He played at the University of Minnesota and went to Central. They had LaMarcus Golden. Then it was Chris Garner. And so when Chris Garner was a 9th grader, I was a 7th grader. So Chris Garner was the best point guard in the city at that time, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. So when he was in the 9th grade, I was scared to try out. So I didn't try out. I played for the Memphis Rebels, a competitive park commission team. And then that following year, I came back when Chris left to go to Treadwell. I tried out, but I got cut first. I got cut, man, and I was cut, and the PE teacher, she saw me. She was like, "Coach, you see that little 7th grader? You need to give him another look." Well, the trial that he gave us, we had to jump for like 30 minutes, just jump up in the air. And I didn't withstand it. But when he gave me my opportunity, I not only went from making the team, I went to starting as a 7th grader.
So you get a chance from not making the team to being a starter on the team. Like that's something, because a lot of kids can probably maybe not testify to it, but maybe they can relate to it. Like maybe I didn't get the opportunity to start, or maybe I didn't get the opportunity. Maybe they feel like they didn't get a fair chance. So that's a good point that you made.
Yeah.
You go to 8th grade. You say y'all win state. You go to 8th grade. Are you knowing what high school you're gonna go to at this time?
Man, so I'm in the 8th grade, and then we had one more year of junior high.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So 9th grade.
Right.
So my 9th grade year, it was some really good teams in the city that year. And we got put out, I want to say, by Corey Junior High. But then that's when the talk started coming, who's going who. All the top guards, all the top players, where they going. Back then, most of the guys that went to Bellevue, they wanted to go to Central.
Right.
Some of John P. Freeman wanted to go to Whitehaven or Central. Well, I followed in their footsteps, and so I started going to Central summer practices with Coach Ricky Collins, and man, he played me that summer. I said, I'm going to Central, and I went to Central for like a good month. And somebody on that team, mom or dad, called over there, said I wasn't in the district, and said I had to go to Northside because that was my zone school, and I went to Northside for like 4 hours. I said, I can't do this. Even though I grew up in North Memphis, and my dad just moved over there in Cherokee, and it was on for Ridgeway. So I ended
Right.
up starting my high school career at Ridgeway for Coach Henning. Yeah.
Ninth grade.
10th grade.
10th grade.
10th grade,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. So 10th grade, you get to Ridgeway.
Yep.
You coming from North Memphis. How is the transition?
The transition was difficult at first because it was a diverse school. It was a majority Caucasian, because a lot of the minority kids, the black kids, were bused there.
Right.
From Bethel Grove, from Sherwood, the Sherwood area. They were bused there, and so it was very few minorities, but that it was a culture shock because
Right.
I was around all my life. I went to Guthrie Elementary in North Memphis. I went to Frazier Elementary, and I went back to Guthrie. And so all my life, man, I just been around minorities, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it was a culture shock. I had to get adjusted to it. I had to adapt. But it was good. It was good for my development because I met a lot of different nationalities, and I learned how a lot of different people out in the suburbs were living, and I was able to integrate that with my upbringing, and it turned out for the good.
You gave some structure.
Absolutely.
You gave some structure. Along the way, when you at Ridgeway, did you meet anybody, or was there anybody in your life growing up early on that said, hey, man, I'm going to mentor you, I'm going to show you how to be a young man? Did you get that early on in life?
Yeah, Coach Henning, man. I was his first incoming sophomore class. It was his first year. He had just came from the University of Memphis working with Larry Finch. And so he had structure in his program, and it was a program that has been down, that was down. It was not a basketball powerhouse, and he changed the mindset. And so I was with him every day. He took me to games. He was like a second father to me. And so he taught me how to be a point guard. And so that moment in my life, you know, and then I had the upperclassmen, guys like guy named Derek Smith, and Keywan Branch. Man, those guys, man, they was hitting jewels. Those guys were hitting jewels at Ridgeway, and they played against tough competition. But man, they kept fighting, they worked every day, and I learned work through those guys.
So when you get to Ridgeway, are you starting as a 10th grader?
As a 10th grader, I wasn't starting. I started starting some games towards the end, and then my 11th and 12th grade year, it was my program.
It was your show.
Yeah.
When are you getting interest?
Around my 12th grade year, the summer of my 11th grade year, going to the 12th, that's when my dad started sending me camps. Like my dad was holistically in my basketball development. My mom introduced me to the game, but once my dad saw that I loved it, my dad made sure I hit the best of the best in terms of going to different exposure events and things of that nature. And I went there. He supported me, man. And I remember him putting me on a Greyhound bus station, going to a blue chip camp in Kentucky that he paid for. Then sent me to Columbus, Ohio, to a Super 64 event. So my dad gave me the resources to go out and improve myself. And then I started to get noticed then.
So what's your first offer, Coach?
My first offer coming out of high school was University of Texas Arlington, where I ended up going. But I wasn't a qualifier coming out of high school. So that was the first school to offer me a scholarship. Second school, I think, was Middle Tennessee. A guy named Lonnie Thompson. He was assistant coach there. So yeah.
When you getting these scholarships or offers, what's your like? How are you feeling?
Well, it started off back then. We were so excited just to get recruitment letters.
Right.
Like, I used to go check Coach Henning box every day because I was in this PE class, man, to make sure that I got some recruitment letters. So just start going to those camps. People start sending me handwritten mail and mail outs, man. I was excited about that. I just couldn't wait to go check his mailbox every day to see who was sending me my recruitment letters. Then it started coming to the home, to my home, you know, on those recruitment letters. So I was excited about that. Now that I know now, those recruitment letters don't mean nothing.
Right.
You know, it's a mailing list to go out.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. When you did your game, what transformed your game? Like what one camp transformed your whole game?
I was a point guard. I mean, my passing ability. I was a defense. I'm gonna pick you up 94 feet. My toughness. I knew how to lead and make others around me better from the point
Mm.
guard position. Yeah.
What's your thought on the point guard position right now in the NBA?
In this day and age, man, point guards has to be able to score because the different defensive schemes, man, the schematics, man, teams won't even play you now. Back then, coaches was so old school, they're gonna play everybody the
Right.
same, you know. Now with scouting, advanced scouting, I think your point guard, you gotta be able to make shots, open shots, you know.
Uh, you say you go to Ridgeway, you getting offers, UTA, Middle Tennessee State. How did you pick your college?
Well, I had to go to junior college because I was one of those guys. I did my work, but I didn't consume myself into the work. You know, I didn't consume myself into chemistry and algebra. And back then, you had to have a certain amount there were prerequisites in order to be, you know, college eligible, and it still is today.
Right.
But I didn't take it seriously. I was an average student, and my mom always taught me average is simply being on top of the bottom. And so I had to learn that when I got to junior college. I learned from my mistakes in high school, and I ended up going to junior college first, and then got, you know, I had to obtain my associate's degree. So that was good for me.
Do you regret having to go to junior college, or do you look at it like a learning, like this helped build who I am?
Man, it really did, because I learned how to be a man.
Mm.
I was staying on my own. I went to 2 junior colleges. I went to Tullahoma, Tennessee, Marlowe State. I was in the middle of nowhere, and deers everywhere going to and fro. So I learned how to drive to Memphis, to Nashville, outside Murfreesboro, to Tullahoma every weekend when I wanted to come home. And then my second year, I went all the way to Chattahoochee Valley. That was in Phoenix City, Alabama. That was an 8-hour drive. So staying in an apartment by myself, learning how to pay my bills, learning how to pay my my rent, my lights, my light bill. I learned how to be a man, balance a checkbook. So those junior college years, man, was priceless.
When you're at these junior colleges, for the kids who don't know, because they think of junior college like, they don't really think much of it. They just
Right.
like, talk about the level of competition that's in junior college at the time when you were playing, and the mindset you gotta go in with, because you really only there for 2 years, and everybody's there for the same reasons, to try to get a scholarship, to try to potentially be D1, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, you got to zoom focus. You got to zoom focus, because if you don't zoom focus, you're not going to get those requirements that you need in order to graduate. Like, you have to graduate with a certain grade point average in order to go Division I. And so with that situation, those scenarios and those environments helped me zoom focus, man. Like, I couldn't be out partying on the weekend knowing I got to learn and I got to turn in papers. It taught me how to be responsible and hold myself accountable. But that 10-to-1 ratio from my professors helped me to shape me who I am today. I know how to write a paragraph. I know how to write an essay.
right.
I know how to go and do research. And I learned those things in junior college because they gave me hands-on. I learned how to be technologically savvy. You know what I mean? Taking those courses. I learned English literature, U.S. history, 1801. I mean, so it was priceless, man, to really dive into the academia side of it. And then balancing basketball, because I know I got higher goals. My goals were higher than just than the goals I was shooting on every day. I wanted to play Division I basketball. And so in order for me to do that, I had to take care of the necessary steps to do that.
I know we moved a little fast. Coach, what was your dream college to play for?
Oh, my dream college to play was for the University of Memphis. Like, that was all of our dream, you know, my era growing up. You wanted to play for Memphis State University, and, you know, had the name change, you know. I remember Channel 10 watching Andre Turner and Elliot Perry, and then Penny Hardaway come through, man. And just like, man, all these Memphis greats playing at the Mid-South Coliseum and the Pyramid and then FedEx Forum. So, yeah.
Cause I'm a big Memphis Tiger fan too. And I told Jay Hunt the other day, like, the guys from the city that play for University of Memphis, they gonna always be my favorite players. I don't care if they is at the end of the bench or if they starting, because it's just the weight that they have to carry on their shoulders.
Yeah.
as a Memphis Tiger to be
Yeah.
home, you know, to get the criticism and stuff too,
Sure.
as well. So I always, like you said, everybody want to be a Tiger. I still want to be a Tiger. So you know, so yeah, everybody wants to be a Tiger. So you talk about your want to be a Tiger. Are you gaining interest from them while you're in junior college?
They had a coaching change. You know, right after Larry Finch, they hired a guy named Tick Price. And so he recruited, my best friend was the top junior college in the country at Northwest Mississippi named Dedrick Golden. So that was their top target. I mean, I wasn't naive to the fact Dedrick was a phenomenal basketball player. And so they went after Dedrick and they signed him. And so I had to go another route from University of Memphis. And I did that and it was good for me. It was good for me.
What do you think you gained from leaving the city of Memphis?
Man, I learned to just respect different, nationalities and cultures. Like I never would have known anything about the state of Texas. I was in the middle of Dallas and Fort Worth. I was in Arlington, Texas.
Okay.
And so just to be on that campus and meet different people from different parts of the country, man, it was
So
priceless.
meeting all these different people from Texas. You get to Texas, you from Memphis. What you think about that barbecue?
Man, they had okay barbecue, but man, there's no barbecue like Memphis barbecue, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. Talk about your recruitment trip at UTA. Like, what made you go there?
Man, they took me to we ate at I'll never forget where the Texas Rangers play at the park, and they had a big restaurant inside that baseball stadium, man. And we were sitting on top of the stadium while the game going on, and man, it was just a beautiful view. And I will never forget, like wow. Then Six Flags was right down the street, man. It was just so many different amenities in the Metroplex area that I've never seen before, that I've never been exposed to, and that got me on their visit.
Do you stay out 2 years?
I do.
So you go into UTA.
Mhm.
Are you thinking that you're gonna start?
I started. I
Okay.
started. I was one of the top junior college point guards coming out, fresh off a national tournament appearance, and I went there. Actually, I didn't start the season off starting, but the middle of the year I started starting, and then my junior year, I set the school record that's still staying today with 19 assists in one game. Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I tell my boy Cordell about that because
Yeah.
he played there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a point guard as well. So I'm gonna
Okay.
make sure I bring that up to him. Talk about what was your favorite team you got a chance to play for while being at UTA? Like who was one of the teams that you like, man, we got a chance to play against a really good team?
I would probably say at the time Tulane was really good. They had the number one recruiting class coming in that year. So Tulane was one. And then I would probably say Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Okay. What's that first day of practice like? Because you coming from junior college to a 4-year school.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? Was it a big change?
Oh man, it was shock. I mean, the structure from the conditioning, the boot camp early in the morning. I mean, just the intensity level that you have to possess. That was totally different, man. It was a shock to me. I couldn't believe the things that I had to endure. You know what I mean? Just to get on the floor, you had to be tough to play for that coach, Eddie McCarter, man. And he had a good staff. He had Buzz Williams. He was a young assistant coach. He's now the head coach at Texas A&M. He had Tony Stubblefield, who was the head coach at DePaul, that just got fired. But he was the head coach at DePaul. He was on that staff. And then the coach is at Troy right now, Scott Cross. He was my backcourt mate. And so he was a senior, but now he's a head coach at Troy University. So it was a good staff, man.
Oh, okay. When you going to UTA, are you leading the drills because like you the point guard, and so are you number one in all the drills you're doing?
You know what? I was actually I was in the back because we had to do this this boot camp in the morning, man. This long distance running with weights, man. And man, I was just mentally exhausted. I wanted to give in a lot of times. But then my back started hurting, so I start coming up with all these different excuses. Until my dad told me, man, you gotta be tough. I remember calling him. You gotta be tough. Getting a free education, man, and the light bulb, it came on, and I started. They said when you're in the end of the line, then all you gotta do is just everybody turn that way. Now I'm in the front of the line. So yeah.
So you turned around. So
yeah.
And then like you said, it's free education.
Yeah.
Like, from the city of Memphis. I mean, this every kid dream to play college basketball.
Absolutely.
And to do it for free. So this good. Are you having thoughts of going to the NBA?
Man, I think that's every child, every student athlete dream that's playing any type of level of basketball, whether it's NAIA or Division II. Your aspiration and dreams to play in the NBA, but at that young age, man, sometimes we can be delusional.
Right.
I'm going, then that reality set in. And I'm like, I did a couple tryouts for different minor leagues like the IBL and CBA. I didn't make it. And never forget, I met Steve. I got a phone call from Buzz Williams saying John Calipari was getting a job at the University of Memphis. They looking for a young guy that he can mold. And Steve Rockefeller, who was on his staff at that time, called me and said, "You from Memphis? You coming home?" I said, "Yeah, I'm coming home." Asked me did I want to be a part of their staff, man. And they're like, I want to say I was 22 years old,
man,
on John Calipari's staff at the University of Memphis.
And what year is this, Coach?
This had to be in 2000 and no, actually, it was 1999. Yeah, 1999 and 2000.
So you getting a chance to see the team like transform, like from okay to good.
Interesting story. I came back home and started. The guy that got me into coaching, named the late Dwayne Stokes, rest in peace. He was the head coach at Craigmont, and I started working at Dillard's, Ladies Shoes. I'm in Dillard's in Ladies Shoe department, and he came in there to buy his wife some shoes. He's like, "What you doing, JJ?" I said, "Man," he said, "You done playing at UTA?" I said, "Yeah." He was Keyron Shine's high school coach. He said, "I got a good young group of guys at Craigmont. We're in a tough district with Hamilton, Fairleigh. I need some help. I always said you was gonna be a coach. Come and help me." So man, I said, "When y'all got practice again?" He said, "Tomorrow at 4:00. I used to take my lunch break every day around 4:00 and sneak over to know my lunch break wasn't really number 30 minutes. But I'd be gone for an hour just to give back and learn something over at Craigmont." And at that time, a young man that was stayed in my neighborhood in Fraser was a skinny little 10th grader that coach always said had the potential, named Jermaine Hunt. He was on that team. And so I started volunteering my time, helping Coach Stokes out at Craigmont when Jermaine was a 10th grader. And man, he let me grow as a young coach. He gave me the pad to help him write practice plan. He taught me structure. He taught me skill development. He taught me how to run a system. At 22 years old, selling ladies' shoes fresh out of college. And man, I took that and I ran with it. And then I still had my little part-time job with Memphis on the side. So I was doing ladies' shoes, Craigmont volunteering, coaching, helping Coach Cal out. And I put it all together by everything I learned from Coach Cal. And I would take it back to Craigmont. And they'd be like, "Man, Coach Stokes was like, where you learn that from?" They didn't know I was over at the University of Memphis helping with Coach Cal. So I was getting a double dose of that thing for them kids.
So you now I don't know, are you taking your game to the next level, your coaching game, but you taking you finding someone that you can pour into and take their game to the next level. Now, that same person that you took his game and changed, he doing the same thing too. So it's kind of funny how it works. That's a good story, Coach. I appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah.
Your time there in Memphis, how long do you stay your first year?
Man, I want to say I stayed about 3 years because Jeremy came there and I was there his first 2 years. And then I met some people through Coach Cal. I met some people um, that was starting a business in Washington D.C. And at the time, I'm 25. It was like you can start your own business, be an entrepreneur, and you can do basketball still. And I want to fly you to D.C. So I flew to Washington D.C. Met a guy named Arthur Jackson. He had a company called One-on-One Basketball, and he was franchising the company and the brand out. And it was in at that time it was in Chicago and it was in San Diego, California. So they had two franchises in Boston. It was in Boston. And he said, "Why don't you start my franchise in Memphis?" 25 years old. Well, going up there, man, visiting with those guys, Arthur and Jonathan Scribner, man, they taught me the business side of basketball. So wasn't nobody doing no private training. Nobody had private training in the South, period. So at 25 years old, I started one-on-one basketball. I had an office building out there right behind Wooddale High School, the formerly old Dean Lotz building. A guy named Russell Hill bought my telephones and my desk, and I met with a guy named Cowboy, Eric Robinson, Rodney Newsom, and I sold him on my vision to come start this basketball company. They said, "What we gonna do?" I said, "We're gonna do individual workouts, individual skill development. That's gonna be just the tip of it. We're gonna do basketball camps. We're gonna go get contracts with the Grizzlies." They looking at me, and with And1, we're gonna do a partnership with them. We're gonna go to Germantown Parks and Rec, and we're gonna do skill classes in their facility at nighttime. We're gonna do after school programs. We're gonna partner with the Memphis City schools and Shelby County schools. We're gonna do after school hoops program. They looking at me like it's never been done. Man, we had after school hoops program running soon as school end for an hour a day with different age groups, K through second, third through fifth grade, at different elementary schools throughout the city. We would hire kids my age, I'm 25, on college campuses so that they can make $20 an hour to come teach kids how to play basketball. We had a curriculum. At nighttime, we'll leave the after school programs, and we was in 15 or 20 schools. I mean, making good money. At nighttime, we'll go to the Bartlett Parks and Rec Center. We'll go to Singleton Community Center in Bartlett, in that area. We'll have a skill class at Ridgeway High School for 7th through 12th graders. And then we'll do something at Jewish Community Center called skill clinics at night, skill classes at night. So I had skill classes at night, after school hoops programs going on from after school to 6 o'clock. And then all those people that would sign up for those programs, we'll have spring break camps. We'll have, if they wanted a basketball birthday party, we would come to the facility to do a basketball birthday party. So it was a year-round basketball instructional company, man. And man, no one has seen it done like that. It still hadn't been done like that since 20 years ago. But I did that 20 years ago, man. Put on basketball tournaments, had basketball leagues. I founded the competitive basketball league, the CBL. We had a draft. And, you know, back then we didn't have these P7 facilities or the sports event center. We didn't have those things.
Hold on, where's the draft at? Where?
It was at Mississippi Boulevard.
You know what? I know I didn't get a chance to play in that, coach, but I have heard good things about that.
Yeah.
A lot of good guys, a lot of good guys from the city got a chance to participate in it.
Oh man, we had the best of the best.
Yeah,
man. We had the best of the best. And
my homeboy still talk about that to this day. Like, bro, I really got drafted. They really drafted us to a team.
Yeah. So I've been blessed, man, to just be a forward thinker at a young age, man. And people look at me now like, he's still young. Oh man, I got baptized in this thing, man, early of this basketball shit.
You say you worked with Coach Cal and you was 22. What are you taking from working with Coach Cal at that time, and what's your thought process?
How to run a program, how to impact lives, how to develop, how to build relationships outside of the building. You know what I mean? Going out in the community and building those relationships. And I learned fundraising at an early age, how to go out and go get people say fundraising, I say friend raising now.
Right.
You going out and establish friendships so those people can, assist in your cause. And so I learned that. And I learned about managing a roster with talent. That helped me when I became a head coach to be able to deal with different personalities and manage egos so that everybody can ascend and excel for the common cause of the group.
You talked about being under Coach Cal. You talked about being at Craigmont. You talked about working at Macy's selling shoes. When do you talk about having your own business as well? When do you transition to Cordova?
Great question. Actually, I was at Ridgeway before. So here's how I got to Cordova. My high school coach, he saw what we were doing at Craigmont. Like, man, I want you home. Come on home. So I came with coach, went to Ridgeway High School as his freshman coach and his assistant varsity coach. And we brought in the best freshman class probably this city has ever seen, with Jason Jones, Martino Brock, Malcolm Burton, Derek Mason, Dominique Shellman. I mean, you name it, man. Big JoJo Calvin. Man, we had an unbelievable. And I excuse me if I left some people out, but I didn't forget you. Charged to my head, not to my heart. But we had the number one freshman team in the city that year, and we won the city championship. And so that same year, as an assistant coach with Coach Henning, we had Jordan Mincy, Pierre now. We won the state championship. So Coach Henning had the best of the world. He had the best freshman class that won the city championship, and then those upperclassmen won the state championship. So I was a part of that state championship staff. And then Coach Mike Moore, he was the head coach. He was Coach Henning's top assistant for many years. Even when I played, he became the head coach at Cordova and wanted me to come out there and offer me the freshman coach position at Cordova.
How long do you stay at Cordova?
Stayed at Cordova for 2 years, and I brought in a really good freshman class at Cordova.
Coach, before we talk about Melrose, when you go in Cordova, because you already having like a lot of basketball success on your own,
Mm-hmm.
are you like, this gonna be my last one? This gonna be my last stop? This gonna be my last time being an assistant?
That was my mindset because I won the city championship 2 years, and I'm like, I know most. Even when I look at freshman coaches right now in the city, a lot of them aspirations is not to be head coaches, because a lot of those freshman coaches, a lot of these guys nowadays, they skipping steps. They've skipped a lot of steps. I thank God for my process of being a freshman coach, because I learned through my losses. I also learned by trial and error of running a freshman program. But to answer your question, when I went to Cordova, Coach Moore, I had to give him credit. He allowed me to grow and run. You know, Coach Henning, bless his heart, he wanted me to run his system. And now, when I became a head coach, I now realize the importance of Coach Henning wanting me to run his system, because I was such a forward thinker. I had my own philosophy. And at that time, as a young coach and hungry, I didn't realize what Coach Henning was trying to instill in me. He wanted me to run his system so that when those kids, like the D League, like the G League, when them kids lead a Memphis hustle and they go get a two-way guy, that guy should be able to blend in well with what the Grizzlies are doing. It should be able to translate, because they run the same system.
Right.
And I fought that, man, as a young coach. Young coaches, do what your bosses want you to do, because I fought that with Coach Henning, and we butted heads because I was winning. I was more about me than we. And as a young coach, I made a huge mistake. And I tell Coach Henning to this day, I apologize, man, because I was all about my development rather than what he wanted as a leader for his program. So when I got to Cordova, the head coach was like, "No, man, go sow your rings. I got my system. I know you're going to develop them." So his mindset was totally different. So I see what Coach Henning was saying, and then I see what Coach Moore was saying. Neither one, it's their prerogative as to what they want guys that serve up under them to do. And so I learned in both instances. So both instances helped me propel and ascend at the highest level when I got my own program.
So let's talk about getting your own program, Coach. So everybody know you for being in Melrose, like the people my age. We know you for being in Melrose. Was there any other school, any other high school in the city that possibly could have got you to be their head coach before you went to Melrose?
Man, anybody that would have offered me a job at the time, and I would have went. But this situation was so unique. Back then, high school principals wanted teachers. Nowadays, it's different. You can be a volunteer. You don't have to work in the school. Back then, they wanted certified teachers, and so there weren't many. I think Raleigh wasn't open. There wasn't many positions open, and so when I got a call from Tony Medlock, who's now the head coach at Alabama State, he was recruiting one of my AAU guys, Arnett Moultrie.
Mm-hmm.
And Arnett played for me for 3 years in my summer program, and they were recruiting him at UTEP, University of Texas El Paso. And he was like, man, help me get Arnett, man. I promise you, I can help you get a high school job. I'm like, okay, what high school job? He said Melrose. Melrose. I know Melrose is a football school,
Right.
and back then, it was just all football. So I called one of my mentors. He was like, man, no, man, it's a football school. Called another one of my mentors, said, you got to take it. So I said, they haven't offered me the job. So I had the meeting, lady named Rosalind Davis, Chris Adams, who was the former coach at Hillcrest, his auntie. She was the residence principal at Melrose. She called me. She said, you come highly recommended. Could you come for an interview on a Wednesday? I never forget. I had 2 days to prepare. And for this day, I've worked my whole coaching career. I typed up my packet. I had my vision statement. I had a PowerPoint. I had a booklet form, like I was going to interview for a real college. She walked me into the office. I met a guy, the late LaVon Bridges, one of probably the best principal in Memphis City Schools history, on LaVon Bridges. He's sitting up there, and this guy, guys like Tim Thompson, Dorsey, all these dudes, legends, have worked for him.
Right.
So I'm sitting in his office, Rosalind Davis right there. I give him my packet. Actually, I emailed it to him before I got there. He said, young man, now they call him Chief. He said, I went through your packet. You got a vision for this program. And he said, be mindful, this is a powerhouse program. It's like the Kentucky of sports. And man, he said, all I ask of you is to burn the midnight oil. He said, this community will support you. And if you build a winner, they're going to come. And he said, Ms. Davis, give him his keys, take him down to Robert Newman, show him where his office is going to be at. He hired me that day, man. I was the happiest man. I was peacock proud and honeymoon happy, man. And she introduced me to Coach Newman. Coach Newman gave me my other set of keys, asked me he was the former coach, and he coached the girls. He had no ill will about it. He supported it, and he gave me the utmost support, man. And man, they never micromanaged me. They let me soar, man.
That's a good story. I guess my next question to you, Coach, would be, what's the first thing you had to change? What's the like, man, I gotta change because it's a football school. You said,
Yep.
What's the first thing you change?
The mindset. I had to change the mindset when I met with I never forget. Coach Newman invited me. He was coaching them in summer league at Central, and he said, we got a summer league game tonight. I want you to come to the game. So I watched in the stands. Coach Newman coached the team. And so after the game, he introduced me to the team. And they had barely lost. And I saw some guys on there with some potential. And so as I introduced myself to them, I talked about being uncommon. I said, as I'm fortunate enough to take over this program, I want to continue to build on the legacy that the guys before you guys have laid, the William Belfords, the Larry Finches, the Ronnie Robinsons, all the greats, Sidney Atkins, everybody who played at Melrose,
Right.
John Gunn, James Bradley. It's so many.
And plenty.
And I said, in order for us to build upon that legacy and to overachieve, we got to be uncommon. So they were looking at me. And I really didn't go in depth on what my philosophy of uncommon really meant. But I told them that where they resonated in their spirit. I said, I'm going to be at the gym on Sunday to meet again with you guys. And they came up there. Everybody's in there. Told them about being uncommon. The following week, I had to work quick. I had to make my first call. My first call, actually, I went up to Shelby State. I never forget, Southwest Tennessee. I went and met with a lady named Tasky Douglas. She was the mom of Telvin Wickerson. Telvin Wickerson at the time was the #1 8th grader coming out of Craigmont Middle. In that same gym was Chris Crawford, Joe Northern, Adonis Thomas. Adonis I'd been working with him, training him,
Right.
Because he was at Mount Pisgah. So I really thought it was far-fetched. I wasn't going to get Adonis because he was just a great student.
Right.
I thought he was going to go to MUS or Briarcrest. I didn't even know I had a chance with him. So I targeted Telvin Wickerson. Talked to his mom, talked to his uncle, Tony Collier, I'm sorry. And I sold him on a vision. I said, I got to have Telvin. I got to have that rock. And they gave me a commitment that day. They gave me a commitment that night at Southwest Tennessee. They would come. So all across the Stallions practice, Telvin going to Melrose. I never forget Chris Crawford. Telvin going to Melrose. Chris Crawford, like, I want to come. I knew Chris Crawford mama. She loved me to death. But he had just started high school. So he had a good freshman year.
Yeah.
So she wasn't going to transfer him. Then I stayed just working the Donuts. I ain't pressuring him. His daddy, his mom, I ain't pressing him. I knew when the time was right, it was gonna be fine, So I met a guy named Eric Watson. His son was a good basketball player at American Way. He said, JJ, I got a kid that's played with little Eric, and he didn't play at American Way, but man, he a dog, man. I said, he played for Keith Easterwood. Keith Easterwood, go up to Treadwell. Went up to Treadwell, saw Keith Easterwood, rest in peace, Keith Easterwood. I see Chris Jones, I'm sitting in the gym, got my notepad. Nobody know about this kid. I'm looking at him. The best player on the team now is Bobby Parks. Played at Ridgeway Middle. I'm looking at this kid pick up 94 feet, turn his man, make tough shots. Wow, but he was tough. A big time part of the DNA I look for in a player, a tough guy. I talked to him, asked him for his number, made a couple calls. Mama invited me to the house the next day. Go over his house, meet Eric Watson. I said, where your son at? Oh, he sleep. Where he sleeping at? He sleeping in the eye of the house. That's a house outside the house. He sleep with a pit bull. With pit bull? This kid in the 8th grade sleeping with a pit bull in the eye of the house. I knew he was different. Told his mom, if you send him to Melrose, I promise you'll never have to pay for his education. He's going to go to college. He's going to get a degree. He's going to graduate high school. He's going to be the best player in high school basketball when I get through with him. She sold a dream. Boom. She bought into it. So I got Telvin. I got Chris committed. Get a call from Cowboy. Cowboy said, Southside closing down, Jay. Daddy don't want him to go to Hamilton. You need to meet with Mr. Rucker. Tell Mr. Rucker to come up there. We meet with him, lay out my plan for him, seal that deal. I got one more to seal. Actually, tell you this. Some told me to go up to the school one day. I went up to the school. I see the football team out there. I see a 6'6", 9th grade, 8th grader going to be a 9th grade named Nino Johnson. Couldn't walk and chew bubblegum. Everybody, he played football. So, he went over there for football. Looking at this kid, I said, hey, son. He said, I ain't played middle school basketball, but my sister played. Who is your sister? He said, Ashley Shields. I said, oh. You coming to Melrose? He said, yes, sir. I said, wow. I knew I was going to make him a ball player. But he was a football player.
Right.
So I got one more to sign. So I got a 6'4", Telvin Wickerson. I got Chris Jones, who's 5'8" at the time. I got Nate Rucker, who's 6'6", who coming as a 10th grader. And I got one more. That's Adonis Thomas.
Okay.
I got to go to the church on a Sunday. Put my suit on, 5 o'clock. I go to the Church of God in Christ. Donna's daddy said, man, listen, you got to sell his mama. Now, granted, I done train this kid. He with me every day. I still got to sell the mama.
Right.
So she came up to Melrose. I never forget. I got Pastor Kevin Bowen up there. I got another one of my friends up there. We got Big E, that's Donna's dad. And Donna's was in the gym, the mama. And, man, I heard Kevin Bowen tell the parents of his experience, not as just as an alumnus, but his son Rashad Bowen played at Melrose, and what his experience was like. And so that paid huge dividends. That meeting, and when she saw the vision, I said, I promise you, your son gonna graduate tops in his class. I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna develop him to be a McDonald's All-American. He's gonna have major colleges wanting him. I can guarantee you that. And they saw the vision. And everything that I guaranteed them that day, that Sunday afternoon, it actually happened. And just getting that nucleus with what they already had, I knew it was gonna be special.
Mm. So are you counting your championships already, or are you just like, I'm gonna just let time tell, or are you like in your head you already knowing that, hey, I'm gonna get a ring because, like you said, Chris Jones, he a dog. Tevin Wilkerson, you know, the Nate Rucker, like,
Yeah.
you know, the Adonis, like you coming with the pretty much the cream of the crop because, like you said, Ridgeway, you know what I'm saying, back then around that time, they were known for having the cream of the crop
No doubt.
guys. So it's like you getting the cream, the best of the best at this point. Are you just like, are you just trying to be patient? Are you like, how are you feeling at this point? Because it's a lot. I mean, you're a new coach. I'm pretty sure it's a target on your back because you getting guys that I'm pretty sure coaches been watching all year long saying they come to my school and now they come to your school.
That's a great question. I didn't know what to expect, but I dreamed big, and I reading this book. Uh, it's called Making the Big Time Where You Are. I knew I wanted to build a national basketball program in the city, high school program. I knew I had the infrastructure to do it, but I needed the right team of builders, and I knew what I had assembled because the competition was what you just said, fierce. It was a competitive. It's not like it was.
It's watered down now.
Yeah. I mean, it was a dog fight every single night. I knew what I was up against. I knew the giants, but nobody believed but them guys that I chose to be uncommon. And I think the reason we had the successes that we had, because we had an uncommon mindset. We demanded so much, and I think when you demand, and that demanding spirit brings about aggressiveness.
Mm-hmm.
That was our nature. We had our culture code was called ADU, and they'll tell you what it was: aggressive, discipline, and unselfishness. And we wanted guys that was tough, that was competitive, that was selfless, that had a champion's work ethic, and that had a burning desire to win. They can spit those things out to you right now, everybody that played for me. Toughness, competitiveness, selflessness, a champion's work ethic, and a burning desire to win. If you had those 5 different traits, we were gonna go above and beyond. And I knew we was gonna do what we had to do, and we did it. We did it.
Your first year as the head coach at Melrose, what do you think about the first year, coach?
I think we overachieved. We were. It was probably the toughest district. We had Whitehaven, Kingsbury, Central, Fairleigh, East. I mean, it was a tough district that first year. Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. Ridgeway?
Ridgeway, but then they was on the other side.
Okay.
But it was a tough district that first year, 16 AAA. And if you look at the history, back then it was always Hamilton and Fairleigh or East. And we finished. Central was in there. I'm sorry, Central was climbing up. So Central was in the top 3. You know, Fairleigh had always been on the top, but you had Fairleigh, Hamilton, Central, and we finished. I want to say 4th. We played 5th regular. You know, we were losing close games. So we went into the tournament. We'd have played a tough schedule. This one Manassas was really good. They went to the state. They had Reggie Buckner now.
Okay.
We played them twice, lost to them, barely losing to them, and I knew I'm competing with them with 9th graders. To me, Manassas was probably the best team in the city.
Yeah.
And even though they was double A or single A, I felt like they were the best team in the city.
It was single A.
They was single A?
Yeah, I went to middle college. They played us.
So they had Reginald Buckner. I mean, they had big
Trey
guard.
Payne.
Oh, Trey Payne. They was loaded.
They had they had the dude to shoot the ball.
Oh man.
What's the school that closed down out there in Fraser? It was a high school that closed down because that's how he ended up coming to Menendez. But I can't think of. But he light skinned guy.
Yeah.
He was a shooter. They had Doc.
Yes, the light skin. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And man, dude,
They tough too.
I felt like we was barely losing to Menanzas, man. And I knew because we can compete with Menanzas with that older veteran team he had, we was gonna be good in the end. And so I think we finished fifth. I mean, we finished fifth in their seeding. Man, we upset Fairleigh. We upset Central was number 2 or 1. We upset Whitehaven was good. I'm sorry. Whitehaven was good. They had Terry Leak. Yeah. We upset Central, Fairleigh. We upset somebody else. And then we beat Central in the championship game. They were loaded. We beat Central in the championship game.
Yeah, they had
T-Stone, Cameron Cleary, Maceo Harmon. I mean, they was loaded. Jermaine Harleman was on that team. His brother, Ernest. So we upset them in the district championship. And we played we played in the region. We hosted, I want to say Germantown. We beat them. We had to play Ridgeway. We had to play Ridgeway in the semifinals. Ridgeway was the number 1 team in the state. And because White Station played Kirby, this is the semifinal. White Station and Kirby, Ridgeway, and us. White Station upset Kirby. Kirby had a really good team that year. They had beat Ridgeway, I want to say twice. They had Malcolm Burton, who played for me, Curtis Lee. So that semifinal game, Ridgeway was loaded, man. They had a real Division I team. They beat us probably, I want to say, by 10 points. At the end of the game, I knew then we're going to learn from that. I got number 9 grade, I got everybody back. But we battled with them. Adonis had a bad game. Chris kind of carried us. Nate really, he was a neophyte, might I say. Like he wasn't ready for that moment, that game. And all my young puppets, they weren't ready. But I knew we were gonna learn from that game because they went on to win. They went on to win the state, and we came back the following year, and we won the district again. Went to the city. We was up 20 points against Raleigh, Egypt, who was the number 1 team in the state at that time in the city championship. They came back and beat us in overtime, and we lost in the regional to White Station. In the regional final, we beat Ridgeway in the semifinal. We lost to White Station, Farrakhan Hall, Joe Jackson,
of course,
in overtime.
Oh, okay.
Chris Jones missed the free throws. He missed the free throws to win the game. He cried. I said, "You gonna get the last laugh. You gonna get the last laugh." White Station, we had to go to Raleigh, Egypt, in the sub-state game, the game to go to the state. So we go on the road to Raleigh, Egypt. We play in, I wanted to play a boxing 1 on AJ Jones. Well, they started a kid named Rashad. Rashad played AAU for me. He got out there, and then Chris Jones picked up 2 quick fouls. Tech, Pooh Man hit him and they got him out of his game. So they came in with a game plan, veteran move. They beat us bad. We learned from that. So the team that beat us the year before, Ridgeway, won the state. White Station, they won the state that year. Yeah. And then we came back they junior year, and that's when we went 37-4.
My question, you on that loss to Raleigh Egypt, where you said you lost in overtime, you were up by 20. Who do you put that loss on?
I put that loss on me because I didn't make the necessary adjustments. Jimmy Adams, who's a veteran coach, won state championships at Central back in the day, coached at Ole Miss, coached at Memphis. He was a veteran coach. He had a really good staff. He had Javante Holmes, who was a young coach at the time, Brian Brooks, who was a veteran assistant coach. He had a really good staff, but those kids have been playing together since middle school. So they had a camaraderie. My kids was just put together, and for us to be coming out on them, man, nobody expected us to do that. We didn't make those adjustments. The shots we were making the first half, we kept settling for them. I never forget, Shamarcus Tony was hot the first half. The second half, it got cold. Twan Oakley got cold. And so they went to a 2-2-1 half court to take us out of our offense. And at that time, I learned from that game that offense is all about spacing. Our spacing was so discombobulated, it wasn't right. We had 3 on one side, and so they was getting steals, and my young kids couldn't really recuperate after those different minuscule mistakes because of the space. From that day forth, I learned that summer, spacing is offense. Offense is spacing. And so I never had that problem ever again when it comes to spacing. Because if we had great spacing and attacking defenses with different alignments, we'd have beat Raleigh Egypt by 20 or 30 that game.
Coach, at this time, because it's rumored that you had 100 basketball books in your office.
Uh-huh.
At this time, are you still reading the books? Is this where you're seeking the extra notes about the game out that other coaches probably want to keep away from you, so you want kind of like pass them some?
Yes. Reading a book by Herbie Brown called How to Win with Less Talent.
Okay.
How to Win with Less Talent. And in that book, it talks about spacing, that offense is spacing and spacing is offense. So that's when I learned the importance of spacing. If you look at now in the NBA, back when I was playing, it was 3 out, 2 in spacing. They always played with 2 posts and 3 perimeter players. When I got to college, it kind of transformed to 4 out, 1 in. That's when the dribble drive started coming in play. Now, guess what you see? 5 out spacing.
Mm-hmm.
So spacing is offense, man. And I learned that by reading that book. I studied alignments, how important alignments are when you're going against different alignments. If you're going against this is free, y'all, a 1-2-2, then I'm going to come back there with a different alignment, 2-1-2 attack. If you're in a 2-3 or 1-1-3 in the half court and they're going 1-1-3, I'm going to give you an unorthodox alignment. I'm going to go with a 1-4 high attack. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or a 2-3 high attack. If you're going with extended 1-3-1, I'm going to go 2 guard front, 2 guys here for you to pick and choose in the middle with a baseline runner. So little things like that I learned about alignments, how important alignments and distortion of different zone defenses. I learned that summer, and it made me a much, much better coach.
So you lose, you come back. What's your mindset? Because you're reading books now, you're gaining more knowledge. What are you spilling into the guys now?
That's where Uncommon came in, and just the mindset shift. We would get up at 5 a.m. Now we got that really burning desire. In the preseason, we got 5 a.m. individual workouts. We got 5 a.m. We running through Orange Mound, running from the school to the stadium for boot camp, and they all got on white T-shirts. And I tell them, they see all these new Under Armour. We got an Under Armour contract now.
Right.
So now they see all this different packaging coming in and shoes. You do not get a Melrose uniform unless you are a soldier. Well, what is a soldier? In any militaristic environment, guess what? You got to go through boot camp to be a soldier.
Right.
So I said from that point forth, in order for you to be a soldier for Melrose High School, you got to go through boot camp. And Coach Ray Johnson, who was my director of performance enhancement, he did an unbelievable job of that program. He made it his own. I gave him the autonomy. I trusted him with my life that he was going to get my guys mentally tough and mentally strong to endure. Because if they can survive that boot camp, then they can survive any environment we was going to go into.
That's a good mindset. And so you guys had a boot camp. You go into the season.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ranked number 1 in the state? At this time, you're a national ranked team, right?
We are a nationally ranked team, but we wasn't a nationally ranked team.
Yeah.
We was a nationally ranked team mentally.
Right.
But by the end of the year, we became ranked as high as, I want to say, 8 in the country, 8th or 9th in the country. So we finished it. We won the state, we won the regional, we won the district, we won everything. We won the Martin Luther King, and we finished number 9 in the country in all the polls, anywhere 9 and 10 in all the polls. We come back. They thought I had Chris Jones coming back, but because of the TSSAA rule, he had to go to a prep school, and it didn't matter. So it mattered, but it didn't matter. They still ranked us. And they ranked us USA Today preseason #1 ranked team in the country, first team in the Memphis history to be preseason ranked in USA Today. Still to this day, no team has been ranked preseason #1 team in the country, public school, USA Today.
What's that feeling like? Getting
Man,
that, you seeing that paper or well, I'm guessing, yeah, article at this time on the internet. What's that feeling like, Coach? Because that's a
man,
big award.
man, it was a great feeling, man. I was thanking God, like, God, did you really make this happen? I thought I was dreaming. Like, God made this happen, man. He gave me, he told me to go into Nineveh. He told me to go. And no one believed in the vision but the kids and their parents. And man, they embraced the culture that we had. They fought for the culture every day, from being on time to study hall, from being, we read to the kids in the community. Like we really felt like we was a college program. And so I wanted my kids, when they left Melrose High School and go into any college program, they would be able to adapt and survive and thrive in those environments, because they knew how to be on time. They knew that on time was late.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that being early was on time. They knew that sitting in the front of the class saying yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, thank you, please. I brought in different people in the community and we used to act like we'll work on public speaking. I'm like, we got to be able to speak to the media, you know what I mean? So we'll do media training. I brought in people, different pastors, so that they could have a balance of what's going on, because the stereotype is, man, you're in Orange Mound. Man, them kids ain't gonna make it. We want to defy those odds, man. And so those kids that laid the foundation with me, man, even when they left, we was able to carry on and still have continued success.
How many kids you think you ain't got in college, Coach?
38,
Just
38 seniors, all 38 of them received college scholarships in my 6 years there.
do you think like the guys that you coach? I mean, coming from Orange Man, there's not a lot of guidance. Do you feel like you was the guidance that those young guys needed on the team to succeed in life, to like just take it to the next level?
Even if it wasn't me, they needed someone like me.
Right.
Because I poured, my life was just endoused into that program. I mean, it was my everything. I got a joy going to Airways and watching Jamario Jones and Markel Crawford and K.C. Goodwin and Ladarius Chester, watching them practice. Just watching them practice. I got a joy of going, when I wasn't at Melrose, going to Mount Pisgah, watching Adonis games. I got a joy in the summertime going to watch Chris Jones play for Keith Easterwood. I got a joy watching those kids. I got a joy going to Craig Miller games, watching Telvin Wickerson. I got a joy at watching those guys. And then when I had the opportunity to be my own boss, I got joy in recruiting them, basically. You know what I mean? And for me to be able to see them through, guys like Nino Johnson. The kid played for me from 9th and 10th grade. He transferred his 11th grade year. I hate he did. But I got joy in watching his development. I got joy in watching a kid like Willie Atwood coming from West Memphis, who couldn't dribble everybody. He was a post player. And by the time he got to junior college, he's one of the best junior college players in America.
Yeah.
I got joy watching Darius Moore coming from Mount Pisgah, who just goofy 6'8" kid, that just wanted to shoot jumpers and made him tough and made him a man. I got joy in seeing that, man. I got joy knowing the kids wanted to transfer and they was the man at their school, and I didn't have to recruit them. The program recruited itself. I got joy in that, man. And so to see those guys now, even the guys, we talk about Melrose, but when we talk the Roger Gilchrist, the Myron Strongs, I mean, all these dudes that played AAU for me, AJ Thomas, man, I was a part of their life, man. And I see these dudes as men now, and I'm like, man, I'm getting old. But I was a part of their journey, man, when they was just little boys with a dream. Davion Hunter, Boo Hunter. The kid played for me. And I'm looking at him training his son and daughter. Like, man, look at these dudes, man. You know, it's amazing, man. Just this game of basketball and using it as a tool to help guys become the best version of who they could be, man. To make an impact beyond the game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So you had Melrose for a little while. What's your next step after Melrose, Coach?
My next step, when I left Melrose in 2013, I didn't know why I wanted to coach college basketball, and everybody wanted me to use a player. And most people that was from high school that was getting jobs were using their players. You know, I had some really good players.
Right.
I feel like if I would have taken advantage of them, could have got a job, but I didn't want to get a job that way. So I had to go and be a graduate assistant at Georgia Southern. You talking about me at the time? I'm a certified high school teacher, making $40,000 a year plus my stipend and my tournaments I'm running. They give me full autonomy to make money outside of that, camps in the summertime, and to make $700 a month, sleeping in a duplex in Statesboro, Georgia. A guy named Mark Byington, who's now the new coach at Vanderbilt, gave me an opportunity to be a graduate assistant. And I remember meeting with him over the phone. He said, I'm not going to treat you like a grad assistant. I'm looking at your resume. You can be a full-time assistant here. Obviously, my positions I feel, this is all I have. If you want to get in college basketball, which I know you've already been in it once, this is what you're going to have to do. And I did that. He said, you're not going to be here long. Once the season over with, I want you to go to the Final Four, and I think you're going to get an opportunity. And everything he said, it happened. It manifested.
So after you leave Georgia Southern, where do you go next, Coach?
I met a guy named Heath Schroyer, UT Martin. Penny Hardaway actually helped me get that job. I called Penny. I said, man, you running Team Penny? I said, this dude that just moving to Martin, Tennessee, came from UNLV. Could you make a call for me? And obviously, if Penny Hardaway called you, the coach listened to Penny. He called Norton Hurd and all these other guys, Scott Robinson. But he called Penny Hardaway, and Penny Hardaway sold me, and he hired me. And a guy named Anthony Stewart, rest in peace, my former boss who was at UT Martin, he was associate head coach. He vouched for it, and I got my start at UT Martin. And 2 years later at UT Martin, I was named associate head coach. So I'm like, I done went from being a graduate assistant to 2 years after that, who'd have thought I'd be associate head coach at a university?
And Coach, I was doing my research. They said that you helped them win some of the two conference championships that they say you played a big role in helping them win those conference championships. Do you mind just giving us a little taste of or how you feel you impacted that team and helped them win, like get over the hump per se?
Yeah, man, they was at the bottom of the barrel, had the least resources in the Ohio Valley Conference. And it was, back then you had Belmont, Murray State, Jacksonville State, Eastern Kentucky. I mean, it was a really good league. And my boss, man, he gave me the full autonomy, man, to just be me, to help him. He trusted me with a lot. And I was able to put my footprint on there with his blessings. And we were able to achieve some things that they've never achieved before. Like, still to this day, we had 3 straight 20-win seasons, back-to-back conference championship, went to back-to-back OVC tournament championship game. They still hadn't achieved that success, and it's been since 2018 since I left, and it's 2024 now. So in 6 years since I've been gone, they hadn't achieved that, you know. And before that, man, they was the worst. We went from worst to first, and all glory go to God because He gave us as a staff and the players to be able to, you know, we was blessed to have some good players. Marshawn Newell from Memphis, Matt Butler, Alex Anderson, Terrence Durham.
Oh, yeah.
They call him T-Man.
Yeah.
Man, Fatad Lewis. Man, Darius Thompson. Man, all them dudes believe. Michael Fafana, Parrish Hewitt. Them dudes I recruited. And then the guys from out of town, man, that was already part of the program. Jacoby Mobley, man, we did some great things down there.
Mm. So you leave UT Martin. Uh, like I want to know, like everybody else want to know, how do you end back up at Memphis again?
I was at Troy. I went to Troy for one season to work for my my former teammate, Coach Cross. Good guy, great guy, one of the best guys in the world. And we signed a #1 recruiting class in Troy. But he was my teammate. He got a great basketball mind. He's a head coach. Another thing I learned, like, we had different kind of philosophies. And so after the season, man, he one of my best friends in the world, he fired me.
Mm.
He gave me 2 months to find another job. And it was one of the most difficult seasons in my life. Cause I'm working at Troy University for one of my best friends, my college teammate. And man, when he called me in his office, I never forget. I never told this story. He called me in his office and said, man, I love you. He was crying almost. He said, but our staff dynamics, it was another guy on his staff that's been with him. He was like the associate head coach. He and I bumped heads a lot. And that's part of this business, man. You know, everybody have their own ideas and philosophies. And I think at that time, I can say this publicly, I felt like he took a side. And it's prerogative because that's his program.
Right.
And it hurt me, man, to the core. And he let me go. And that was one of the most darkest seasons in my life. And I remember, I guess somebody had told Penny, I never forget getting a call from him in March, like, man, how you doing, man? I said, I'm struggling, coach. You know, me and Penny from that day forth, from March all the way up to Penny didn't hire me that year until November. So you're talking about from April, May, June. COVID is in now. June, July, August, September, October, November. 8 months I've been on an interview with Penny Hardaway.
Mm.
This is somebody I've been knowing since I played junior high basketball with his cousin, Calvin Golden. Been knowing Penny since I was in the 9th grade. I always looked up to him. And even when I was at Melrose, he was a big part of my program. He gave to my program. He helped give me the resources, and I brought him in to speak to my kids numerous of times. Grateful for him. Never in my life. And when he got the Memphis job, he offered me a job the first time. I was associate head coach at UT Martin. And at that time, I'm stupid, man. I'm like, I'm an associate head coach. I'm one seat away from being a head coach at a Division I. Penny offered me to be his special assistant at Memphis. And I didn't take advantage of that opportunity. And man, but going back to Troy, man, my contract didn't get renewed. And that was tough. So I was in a dark sea. I'm just talking to Penny, man, and we talking. And man, he called me. And actually, I'll never forget, we left Big Bill's barbecue. Guy named Tim Jumper, he was there. Guy named Steven Unke Matthews was there. And he quizzed me, told me to get on the board. We going on the board. And then he like, okay, that's all I wanted. We walking out. I'm thinking I'm getting ready to go back home. He said, make a left. I go in the left to that office. I got a big bag of Nike gear, big suitcase with a contract on the table. He said, we leaving tomorrow, going to South Dakota, man. I've never in my life felt so elated and happy, man, of that blessing. And that year we won the NIT, man.
Mm-hmm.
We won the NIT that year. So that's how I ended up in Memphis. 8-month interview.
8-month interview. Did you know in your head, like, when you were talking, you had no idea?
Man, it's so many people. Penny offered the job to Nolan Smith.
Mm.
He was a Duke at the time. He was assistant coach at Duke.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he turned it down. And he offered the job to somebody else. And man, I guess God saw fit. But this is the place that I needed to be.
Well, today on Who Chronicles podcast, we have my guy, Coach Jermaine Johnson, University of Memphis Tigers assistant coach, Melrose High School champion. We appreciate Coach Jermaine Johnson coming on the podcast today, giving us some game, enlightening us, telling us his story. Coach, is there anything that you would like to say before we get off?
Man, I just want to say, man, I applaud what this young man is doing, and being a content creator and podcast is much needed. And I hope he go viral. I hope he go nationwide, global with his platform, because he's a minority, and I like what he's doing. To all my former players, man, from AAU, from Craigmont, dear to my heart, Ridgeway High School, Craigmont Middle. I forgot about when I was a sixth grade coach there. Uh, and my beloved Golden Wildcats at Melrose. Hey, I appreciate all of you guys that have deposited in my life, man, to help me grow as a coach, and to become the person I am today. And then all the jobs I've had from UT Martin, Georgia Southern, um, Troy, Memphis, everybody I've worked for, all my former bosses. Man, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity, man. And I don't take it for granted, but I leave y'all with this. Keep reaching for the top, because the bottom is overcrowded.
Well, you heard it first here at Who Chronicles Podcast. Thank you, Coach Jacob.
Just to win. Living life for sin. This work gon' get ugly when it ends. I would never stop and go full. Thought I watch some drop me step out GQ model. High pop and take off. I'll sit like the rocket. They love the way I rock it. They love the